While the EFF has apologized and retracted allegations made against veteran journalists Thandeka, Gqubule and Anton Harber, it had claimed the two worked for apartheid propaganda unit Stratcom. So I'm joined now by Anton Harber, Caxton Professor of Journalism at Wits University. Anton, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Let's talk a little bit about how you received the news by the Gauteng High Court regarding that case against the EFF.
Well, we were very pleased. Because we were vindicated. We fought these allegations for a long time. We struggled to get them to retract and stop saying it. Now the court has ordered it, and they have to comply with that. And the court was very clear that those allegations are defamatory. There's no basis in fact or truth, and they in fact were unlawfully said.
Now, with regards to that, does that mean you're going to be pursuing perhaps a defamation suit or lawsuit against the economic freedom fighters?
Well, this was a defamation suit and we won it. So as far as I'm concerned, the matter is concluded.
I must ask you this, Anton. You know, these remarks came as a result of I think it started about 2018, and as a result of what was said by the late Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, and that was regarding also linking you with the Weekly Mail, which you had founded and edited in the 1980s, basically saying that it was, and I'm going to quote her, anti-me and anti-ANC. And these are the sentiments that were shared by Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. So then this has appeared to be, you know, a long-standing case of you trying to prove that actually you're not part of Stratcom. So how then do you start receiving and even dealing and processing the sentiments that were shared by the late Winnie Mandela?
Yes, well, you know, we did write about and we were critical of Winnie Mandela in that particular period when there was controversy around her, and the UDF and the ANC itself were being critical of her. It was controversial at the time. We had to defend it at the time, and we did, and we could. But that resurfaced in things that were said around her death, which the EFF, unfortunately, without verifying, without establishing the truth or the facts, recklessly repeated it. And I'm pleased to say that this court case should finally put the matter to bed.
I must ask you this also. Are you anti-ANC, or were you at the time anti-ANC? And this is referring specifically in the 1980s. Were you anti-ANC then?
Not at all. Not at all. Our newspaper was broadly aligned with the mass democratic movement and the liberation struggle, and we were very proud of that. We were not tied to any particular party. We were independent journalists, and we were covering Winnie Mandela at a time when the ANC itself and the UDF at the time were being critical of stuff she was doing. And so we covered that as journalists must do.
It is, look, I'm glad that this matter has actually been put to bed, because, as I said, it's one thing to be accused of being Stratcom, but when you're putting it on certain social networks, etc., it is a legacy that one lives with for a long period of time, because people always remember the bad news. How do you start salvaging that damage? Because it's also an issue around perception, isn't it? It's also an issue around, okay, from now on, do people still perceive me and the public perceives me as an individual who actually was part of Stratcom, as an individual was anti-ANC? Rewriting some of those wrongs and that narrative. On one side is the EFF, as they're supposed to do on their social media accounts, but on the other side, it's you having to carry that burden for quite some time.
Well, I think that's one of the unfortunate things, is that it's true that there's now a clear court ruling on the facts and on the evidence, and it should put it to bed, but unfortunately these smears do linger and they do last. It really drives home the need. You know, I think there's two critical points to be made. It really drives home the need for us to force politicians, public officials, public figures to be accountable for things they say in public. That's what we've tried to do, because it's damaging, and the damage doesn't necessarily stop when you refute the allegations. But the second thing is it was an attack on journalists and journalists doing their work. And we're finding increasingly we have to defend the space for journalists to do it, to do their work, to do what they're paid to do their jobs, to play their role in society and in democracy, without harassment and threat and name-calling and this kind of finger-pointing. And we hope that this court case is also will also protect journalists. It will also prevent that kind of attack on journalists and journalism in the space in which we live and operate and work.
Anton, we're going to leave it there for now. Thanks all for joining us and shedding some light in terms of how you received the news as per the ruling of the Gauteng High Court regarding that defamation suit. The EFF lost that one, and obviously, as said, it was the allegations around Stratcom and certain journalists being implicated in being Stratcom members.